What if I told you the woman you can't stop thinking about has already decided how she feels about you and you're just missing the signals? Before we go deeper, take a second, subscribe, like the video, and stay with me. Because what you're about to hear might completely change how you see her and yourself. Listen carefully. Men are often taught to chase words, compliments, clear confessions, direct validation, but women, they don't reveal desire the way you expect. Not loudly, not obviously, not in ways that feel safe to your ego. They reveal it in patterns, in energy shifts, in small, almost invisible moments that only a man with awareness will catch. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you're confused about how she feels, it's not because she's complicated. It's because you haven't learned how to read what she's already showing you. A woman who wants you is rarely neutral. She leaks interest. She can't fully hide it, even if she tries. Her emotions betray her in subtle ways. And once you understand these signals, you'll never misread attraction again. But there's a danger here because if you're desperate, if you're overly eager, if you're seeking validation instead of observing behavior, you will misinterpret friendliness as desire and ignore genuine signs when they appear. So, what you need right now is not more confidence, you need clarity. Because when a woman truly wants you, she doesn't leave you guessing forever. She may not say it directly, but her actions will begin to align in a way that feels undeniable. You'll feel it, not as fantasy, but as consistency. And once you see these patterns clearly, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing blindly. You stop overthinking every message. You stop questioning your worth. Because suddenly, you know. You know when she's interested. And more importantly, you know when she's not. What I'm about to show you are the signs most men overlook. Most men, the ones hidden beneath surface level interactions. The ones that separate men who are chosen from men who are simply tolerated. Pay attention, because missing these signs doesn't just cost you a relationship, it costs you your power. When a woman is truly interested in you, the first thing she reveals is not her words, it's her attention. She begins to notice you in a way that feels different from how she notices everyone else. This is the first sign. Selective focus. She remembers small things you said without trying to. Not because she has a perfect memory, but because her mind naturally prioritizes you. The human brain does this automatically when emotional interest is present. We remember what matters to us. You might mention something casually, your favorite food, a stressful day at work, a goal you once had. And later, she brings it up again. Not to impress you, not to perform, but because it stayed in her mind. And here's what most men miss. They think attention must be loud to be real, but real interest is often quiet. She replies a little faster when it's you. She may not always be available, but she is noticeably more engaged when your name appears on her screen. Even in group settings, her eyes find you without effort. Not staring, not obvious, just returning. And if you pay close enough attention, you'll notice something even more powerful. Her energy shifts when you enter the space. It's subtle, almost invisible to someone who isn't aware, but a woman who wants you cannot fully hide the emotional activation she feels in your presence. She becomes slightly more alert, slightly more aware of how she looks, how she speaks, how she is being perceived, not because she is performing for the world, but because you matter in that moment. Now, listen carefully, because this is where men often misjudge reality. They confuse general friendliness with selective attention. But friendliness is distributed evenly. Attraction is not. Attraction has direction. It leans. It concentrates. It repeats patterns toward one person. If she treats you exactly like she treats everyone else, there is no mystery to solve. But if you notice she is more present with you, more consistent with you, more mentally engaged with you, that is not random. That is interest forming before words ever confirm it. And once you start seeing this clearly, you stop overvaluing what is said and you start paying attention to what is consistently done. Because the truth is, a woman can say very little and still reveal everything if you know where to look. There is a second sign that reveals everything, and most men completely overlook it because it never sounds like attraction on the surface. It's proximity. When a woman wants you, she creates reasons to be physically closer to you without making it obvious that she is trying to be closer. She doesn't always walk straight toward you with intention. Instead, she finds subtle ways to exist near your space. She chooses the seat closer to you. She stands where conversation with you becomes natural. She positions herself within your orbit in ways that feel accidental, but repeat too often to be random. And here is where psychology becomes important. Human beings do not consistently reduce physical distance from people they feel nothing for. We naturally protect space unless emotional curiosity or comfort begins to grow. When attraction is present, that internal barrier lowers without conscious effort. You may notice she lingers longer than necessary when the interaction should have ended. She doesn't rush away. She stays just a little bit longer, as if waiting for something more to happen. A continuation, a reason, a signal from you. And even in group settings, something shifts. She orients her body toward you. Not dramatically, not in a way anyone would point out, but consistently enough that if you were paying attention, you would notice her shoulders, her feet, her attention angle subtly aligned with you more than with others in the room. This is not coincidence. This is emotional focus expressed physically. And then there is something even more telling. Her comfort with your presence begins to increase in stages. At first, she may be slightly reserved, then gradually she relaxes. She laughs more freely. She engages more openly. She starts showing micro-level familiarity that wasn't there before. That progression matters because people do not relax into discomfort. They relax into interest that feels safe. Now here's where many men misinterpret the situation. They assume proximity means politeness or coincidence or social habit. But repeated closeness combined with emotional engagement is never just random behavior. It is subconscious positioning. She is not always aware she is doing it, but her behavior is revealing something her words have not yet admitted. And once you begin to recognize this pattern, you'll understand something powerful. When someone wants to stay near you, they don't always tell you. They show you by refusing to drift away. The third sign is where things become even more revealing, because it is no longer about where she stands or how she looks at you. It is about how she communicates with you differently than everyone else. A woman who wants you begins to invest more energy into the way she talks to you. Not necessarily more words, but more meaning behind them. She asks questions that go beyond surface level. Not just, how are you? But, how was your day really? Or, what made you think like that? She starts to explore your inner world in small, consistent ways. And here's the key difference most men miss. Curiosity is emotional investment in disguise. People do not deeply explore what they do not care about. If she is genuinely interested in your thoughts, your opinions, your reactions, it means you are no longer just a passing interaction in her mind. You are becoming a reference point. And then something even more subtle happens. She begins to respond to you with emotional nuance. Her messages are no longer flat or routine. There is variation in tone, warmth, playfulness, sometimes teasing, sometimes softness. The emotional texture of her communication starts to mirror engagement rather than obligation. You may also notice she remembers emotional context, not just facts, but how you felt in a moment. If you were stressed, she references it later. If you were excited, she brings it back up. This is not accidental memory. This is emotional tracking. Now, listen closely, because this is where confusion often happens. Some men think this is just being nice, but being nice is predictable, repetitive, and equal with everyone. Emotional investment is selective. It deepens over time. It adapts to you specifically. And perhaps the most important shift is this. She starts responding differently when you withdraw slightly. Not in manipulation, but in awareness. She notices your absence faster. She reacts to your reduced attention more than she reacts to others. Why? Because your presence has started to matter in her emotional environment. And when someone begins to notice your absence more than your presence, you are no longer neutral to them. You are significant. But here is the truth many men struggle with. They chase intensity instead of consistency. They look for dramatic signs instead of steady behavioral shifts. But real interest is not loud, it is consistent. And once you start reading communication through this lens, you will realize something important. She has already been telling you how she feels long before she ever says it out loud. The fourth sign is something most men completely misunderstand because it doesn't look like attraction at first. It looks like effort. When a woman wants you, she starts putting intentional effort into maintaining connection with you. Not in a desperate way, not in an obvious way, but in a way that shows priority. She finds reasons to stay in your world. She replies even when she doesn't have to. She continues conversations instead of letting them die naturally. She re-engages after pauses. She doesn't let the connection fade into silence as easily as she does with others. And here's the psychological truth behind it. People do not consistently invest effort into what they don't value emotionally. Effort is energy expenditure, and energy is always directed toward what the mind has categorized as meaningful. Now, pay attention to something very important. She starts initiating small moments of contact, not always deep conversations. Sometimes it's just a message, a reaction, a comment, a simple check-in that has no logical necessity behind it. But emotionally, it has purpose. Because initiation is one of the strongest indicators of interest. When someone begins to reach out without being prompted, it means you are entering their mental space even when you are not physically present. And then something more subtle happens. She starts adjusting to your rhythm. If you take longer to reply, she doesn't immediately disappear. She mirrors patience. If you become slightly distant, she doesn't fully detach. She maintains a thread of connection as if unwilling to let it break completely. But listen carefully here. This is where emotional intelligence is critical. Effort does not always mean certainty. It means interest is present, not finalized. There is still interpretation happening in her mind, still evaluation, still emotional processing. She is not just reacting, she is assessing how safe, how consistent, how real the connection feels. And many men make a mistake at this stage. They confuse early effort with commitment. They overinterpret availability as certainty. They assume consistency means exclusivity. But what it truly means is this. You have moved from random person to emotionally relevant, and that shift is powerful. Because once a woman begins to invest effort without obligation, you are no longer competing for attention in her world. You are already inside it. The fifth sign is where things become unmistakably personal. Because it is no longer about behavior alone. It is about emotional openness. When a woman wants you, she begins to let you see sides of her that she does not freely show to everyone else. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, like trust unfolding in layers. She starts sharing more personal thoughts, small vulnerabilities, past experiences that shaped her, opinions she normally keeps guarded. She allows you into conversations that feel more real than performative. And here's what's happening beneath the surface. Emotional disclosure is never random. It is selective. We only open up when we subconsciously feel a level of safety, curiosity, or emotional pull toward the other person. Now, listen closely. She begins to let her guard down around you in subtle ways. Her responses become less filtered. Her humor becomes more natural. She stops overthinking every word. There is a shift from controlled interaction to comfortable interaction. And comfort is not given freely, it is earned through emotional resonance. You may also notice she asks for your perspective on personal matters. Not just casual topics, but decisions, feelings, or situations that actually matter to her. She begins to treat your opinion as something that carries weight in her internal world. That is a major psychological shift. Because when someone starts valuing your perspective, it means you are no longer just part of their environment. You are part of their decision space. And then there is something even more subtle. She begins to test emotional compatibility, not in obvious tests or games, but in small moments. She pays attention to how you respond under stress, how you treat people, how you handle uncertainty, how you behave when you don't have control. She is not just asking, "Do I like him?" She is asking, "Does this feel safe long term?" And this is where many men misread the situation again. They think vulnerability equals certainty. But vulnerability is a doorway, not a conclusion. It means emotional access has begun, not that emotional commitment is secured. But here is the truth that changes everything. A woman does not open her inner world to someone she feels nothing for. She opens it to someone who has already started to matter in ways she may not fully admit yet. And once you see this clearly, you understand something powerful. When she trusts you with her inner world, she is already telling you you are not just another option. The sixth and final sign is the one that ties everything together. And it is the most powerful because it cannot be faked for long. Consistency of presence. When a woman wants you, she doesn't just show interest once, she maintains it over time. Not in extreme bursts, not in emotional highs and disappearances, but in a steady pattern that keeps you in her orbit without confusion. She doesn't let weeks pass without connection if she is genuinely invested. Even if life is busy, even if she is distracted, she finds her way back into your world. Not because she is forced to, but because you are mentally present with her even when you are physically absent. And here is where most men finally start to understand the truth. Real interest is not about intensity, it is about persistence. She shows up again and again and again in small ways that create a pattern, a rhythm, a sense that she is not going anywhere emotionally, even if the pace is slow. Now pay attention to this deeply. Consistency removes confusion. Confusion is what you feel when signals are random, unpredictable, or emotionally disconnected. But when a woman is genuinely interested, her behavior starts forming structure. You begin to notice reliability in her presence, and that reliability creates emotional safety. She becomes someone you can predict in a healthy way. Not because she is boring, but because she is engaged. And then something very important happens internally for you. You stop overanalyzing every single interaction because patterns replace guessing. Now listen carefully. This is where many men either gain clarity or lose themselves. If you are always unsure where you stand, that is also a signal. Lack of consistency is clarity in disguise because someone who is truly interested will not keep you emotionally disoriented for long periods of time. They may not rush, but they will not vanish. And when all 6 signs begin to appear together, attention, proximity, communication shift, effort, emotional openness, and consistency, something becomes undeniable. You are no longer guessing her feelings. You are reading them through behavior that repeats itself without contradiction. And here is the final truth I want you to understand. The goal is not to obsess over whether she likes you. The goal is to become a man who is aware enough to recognize reality when it is in front of him, and strong enough to accept it either way. Because once you see clearly, you no longer chase confusion. You move with truth. And that changes everything.